Miscarriage Moms for Life presents this morning moment. Justice or injustice? A 27-year-old Oregon woman shot her 3 children at point-blank range in her car. One 8-year-old daughter died, but the other 8-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son survived. After her conviction, she was sentenced to life in prison plus 50 years. A 36-year-old Maine woman convicted of depraved indifference in the fatal beating of her 3-year-old son was sentenced to 47 years in prison. A 27-year-old New York woman was found guilty of poisoning her 5-year-old son to death after injecting salt into her son's feeding tube and was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. An 18-year-old New Jersey woman pleaded guilty to aggravated manslaughter for choking her newborn son with the cord, placing him in a plastic bag, and throwing him away. She served just over 3 years of her 15-year sentence. A 40-year-old Utah woman pleaded guilty to 6 counts of murder for suffocating or strangling at birth 6 babies she had between 1996 and 2006 and was sentenced to 6 prison terms of 5 years to life. A 37-year-old Texas woman has been sentenced to life in prison following her conviction on a charge of injury to a child by omission for the death of her 4-year-old son, whose body showed signs of being tortured, malnutrition, and pneumonia. A South Carolina woman was convicted of homicide by child abuse following the death of her infant and has been sentenced to 20 years in jail. A 27-year-old South Carolina woman was sentenced to 18 years in prison after pleading guilty to aiding and abetting homicide by child abuse and 2 counts of child neglect and abuse for failing to protect her 3-year-old son from deadly child abuse. A 27-year-old South Carolina woman pleaded guilty to unlawful neglect of a child in the beating death of her 6-year-old daughter and was sentenced to 6 years in jail. A South Carolina woman, Susan Smith, was sentenced to life in prison after being convicted of murdering her 2 sons, a 3-year-old and a 14-month-old, by drowning them in a South Carolina lake. A 23-year-old South Carolina woman was found guilty of homicide by child abuse and has been sentenced to life in prison for killing her 7-month-old infant daughter. The circuit solicitor in the case said, "It's our responsibility to make sure her death doesn't go unpunished." Sadly, these are not the only examples of mothers or fathers killing their children. Consider the provision in Bill H3774 that a woman cannot be prosecuted for having an abortion. If a law is passed which forbids mothers from going through the justice process to determine the level and degree of their guilt or innocence in the abortion they had, then have not all these other women who have been found guilty been done a grave disservice? Should they not be freed and exonerated and pardoned for their acts of murdering their children which they were convicted of? While there may be a difference in the developmental and growth stages between the unborn, the toddlers, the tweens, the teens, and the 20s, there is no difference in their personhood of each of those individual human beings. Each of their lives constitutionally require legalized equal protections. Moreover, is it not sexist to take men who are suspected of killing their children through the justice process to determine level and degree of their guilt or innocence, while creating laws which forbid taking women who are suspected of killing their children through the justice process to determine their level of and degree of their guilt or innocence? Please remember that a person is a person, no matter how small. May your actions remove the injustice of denying equal protection under the law. May your actions regarding legislation promote justice and equal protection for the innocent unborn human persons. May it truly become unthinkable to continue the legalized government-endorsed abortion of innocent human persons. This is Tiffany Matthews with Your Morning Moment. Until next time, may the God of peace comfort your heart, soul, and spirit. Choose love. Choose life. God bless.